Isaiah, last night there was kind of that stretch in the third quarter where they put a lot of game pressure on y'all. Did you sense anything from your group about, um, you know, how you guys kind of rallied together in those moments?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. We rallied together. We stuck to the game plan, and it showed once we came together as a team and just put possessions together offensively and defensively. We were able to stretch the lead back out.
Chet say anything to you about your block?
No. Because I'm nowhere near where Chet is at when it comes to blocking shots. What he does is pretty fantastic.
You see the clip though? It seemed like you hung in the air for a long time on that one. You were levitating.
I may or may not foul him, but we're not.
Isaiah, Shea was saying last night, you're tougher than he thought when you first got here. And I wonder, as a guy who's like known as a shooter, do you take a little pride in guys thinking things like, hey, this guy surprised me with his toughness?
Yeah, for sure. I think growing up, I've always been, undersized, and then being that way, you have to have an edge over your opponents. And for me, that's just being tougher, still being physical, at my size, and still taking pride in that to this day. So day in and day out, every game, I'm trying to be physical. I'm trying to, assert my toughness.
Do you also like just the dribble pull-ups, the ability to get to the rim? Do you take a little pride in that when teams come in thinking, this guy's a shooter, he's a catch shooter?
Yeah, just try to mix it up. Teams tend to run me off the line a lot, so I got to be able to have other aspects to my game. So that's just stuff I've been working on over the summer, just implementing that, as it comes and just taking what the defense gives me.
You've still been able to get those looks from three, even though teams typically try to run you off the line. What goes into trying to still find those quality looks, even though teams know that you're out there hunting those threes?
Yeah, just hunting, being in the right place at the right time. Fortunate enough for us, we have great players like Shea, Dub, Lou, Josh, who are just really good at, attacking the paint. They cause a lot of help, and just up to me to find the spots. And so I think I've always had a knack for finding an open spot.
Mark yesterday said you're a guy that hits first, and you had just mentioned, you take a lot of pride in being tough. Is that something that you had to learn kind of being in the NBA, being a little bit undersized, or is that something that you've kind of always had in your game?
I've kind of always had that. Like I said, I've always been, undersized, and I've always been guarding bigger opponents, so I've always had to, hit first, be the first contact.
Isaiah, I'm curious because some of the world's best movement shooters, also dribble shooters, whatever the case may be, they're not necessarily great when they have to pick up the ball from the rack or whatever it is in a three-point contest. How do you think you would fare in, say, a three-point contest?
No, I think I'll be all right. Once I get the ball, the shot is the same. I think it's a different technique being able to grab, off the rack and shoot it. But a week or two of practice, you'd be all right. Yeah,
you like to do it?
Of course, without a doubt. Yeah.
Jay Will was talking about, when you were in high school, you could come across half court and pull up and shoot deep if you wanted to. And I just wonder, when you play in a way where you're allowed to just go get your own thing, when you get to this level, you mentioned Shea and Josh, you got Chet. Is there an art to learning just how to play off guys, find spaces and that sort of thing?
Yeah, for sure. Because everybody in the NBA has had the green light once upon a time, and so whenever you're on a team with a whole bunch of guys where everybody is capable, you have to be able to play within the system. And so I think we have a great system here, and me playing within that, and as well as the rest of the players playing within that, is what's giving us the edge here.
To that point, Isaiah, just how have you seen the evolution? I know teams are throwing more and more doubles at Shea with every game. What's the evolution like for you guys that have to recognize the moments where he wants to get off the ball and stuff like that?
Yeah, so we've been doing a lot of working on playing out of the double team, because they're starting to do that a lot. Getting to the pockets, finding an open space, and then everybody else is being able to play on the catch whenever we're in an advantage. Because once they double Shea, that means two is on the ball, and that means we have a open person on our team. So we just got to be able to play on the catch and use that to our advantage.
Anything else? Thanks, Isaiah.
Thank y'all. You have a good one.
Any update on Josh or Dub and whether they practiced today?
It was very light today, so no one really did much of anything. We'll have updates later today when we list.
You guys have been getting out to really strong starts offensively. The first quarters over the last 5 games, averaging around 32 points. And I know the first 5 minutes of every game super important, but how encouraging is that to see from this stretch of games from your guys?
Good. We want to be a 48-minute team, and that includes how you start the game and all the way throughout. And I think we've found a pretty consistent level of competitiveness and togetherness And we've started games well, like you've said, started halves pretty well. So it's encouraging.
Is there a level of like skill that goes into that just to make sure that you're ready to go for every game, or is that something you just kind of expect to have from these guys stepping into every game?
It's something we haven't really talked about it much this year because it hasn't been much of an issue. Last year was an issue, if you remember. We were one of the worst, not worse, but we were much worse in the first quarter than we were in the second, and certainly the third. We were very good in the third. So we addressed it last year just to make sure we were doing everything we could to get ready. There's a thing at the beginning of the year that course corrected, if I remember correctly, throughout. But this year we've done a good job of it. We haven't really talked about it other than just trying to stack good possessions throughout the whole game.
Mark, I saw today somebody put out some numbers that you're third in the league in reviews. Are you a little upset about third?
Who's ahead of me?
Taylor Jenkins and Zula.
In volume or percentage?
Percentage.
I'm a volume guy. Is anybody ahead of me in volume?
Nobody's at a higher percentage than you at a higher volume, I don't think. Maybe Zula is. I think you might have 2 more reviews.
Damn that guy. It's all about. I don't want to lead the league in percentage because it means you're not aggressive enough if you're leading the league in percentage. So we want to go get the plays, but we want to be up there in volume. We want to use them because you can't take them with you. I have none in my hand right now.
Mark, with the minutes that Trey Mann has gotten this year, it seems like he's really been focused on playmaking, trying to break down defenses to make a play for a teammate. Have you noticed a growth point in his game on that front over the course of the last year or so?
Yeah, I think he's done a great job of developing into a more rounded player and developing in our system. He's had very good moments doing that in the few minutes that he's played here, preseason, summer league. One of the things that's hard about his situation as it relates to our team is I honestly, to my core, believe he's a better player now than he's ever been, and yet he's playing a lesser role, and some of that's just circumstantial. But he's done a great job of growing over time and keeping himself ready. And it's still early in the year. The season is young, and so we need everybody to continue to grow and develop. And he's really walked the walk as it comes to that.
Mark, watching last night, I know that you're okay with some jump shots when they're contested, and when you play a team like them, you have to give up something because of the ways you have to guard. There were times like the corner was open, and sometimes it seemed like it was okay, and then sometimes it's Norm Powell. And I wonder, how do you, as the game goes on, do you say, okay, we're going to leave that, and it will adjust if it becomes a problem? How do you approach a thing like that?
The Powell ones were breakdowns. You certainly don't want to give Powell an open 3 in the corner. It's no situation where that's a good idea. I think there's an element of we certainly want to get the ball out of the main guy's hands or make them play in a crowd or make them uncomfortable. I thought we did a great job of that last night. I thought we get good situational double teams. 26 of their 32 shots were contested. The Clippers took a season low of free throws. We did an excellent job on Harden and George, all things considered. When the ball sprays to the next guys, there was a couple times where we closed really hard to man, closed really hard to Coffee, instead of guarding them, winning the closeout. And if they shoot, make them shoot over a hand. A couple of those Powell threes happened with those secondary playmakers getting into the teeth of defense, spraying it out. And now, what would have been a man contested 3 turns into a Powell open 3. Those are things we can learn. But the fact that we're getting to those layers is a good thing because it means that we're taking away plan A on those possessions, which is their main guys creating the play.
Dub had some defensive possessions against PG last night that elite, shot fake discipline and just couldn't let him get anywhere. As you're standing there on the sideline, do you have a reaction to those plays at this point, or does that feel pretty normal to you in terms of J-Dub's prowess on that end?
Yeah, he's got great intensity, and a lot of guys that have that kind of length tend to gap the guy that they're defending. And for a guy that's that long and rangy, he's also got great ball pressure. He gets into guys' airspace. He likes pressuring, which usually is not the case. Usually the guys that are long and rangy like that, their tendency is to want to catch drives and to back off. And he's not like that at all. He's got a great aggression, and it's a good matchup for George because George is an airspace player. He had 2 threes, one on Dub, but one on Isaiah, where we're just this far away from him, and he just shoots over you. And but we did a good job on him most of the night. Dub did a good job. Lou, Kaysen had some good possessions on him. Wiggs did a good job.
Anybody else?
What do you think about scouting when you feel like you play a game tomorrow night against a team where sometimes the best guys are going to play, sometimes they're going to rest. The Clippers are the same way, some back-to-backs and that sort of stuff. In college games, you might hear a guy have a great game, and the coach will say, that guy wasn't even on our scouting report. You guys, I assume, have to go pretty deep because you just don't know. So obviously you're prioritizing certain things in the scouting report, but do you talk about everybody? Is everybody detailed on a report you hand out to people?
No.
Okay.
Not all 18. We try to take our best guess at the rotation, or if there's a guy that's unfamiliar that is a elite skill player, like if there's a guy that just is a knockdown shooter or like an elite offensive rebounder that might not play, we still will sprinkle that in. And a lot of it, I think the thing you underestimate is you can create archetypes of players. So there's not, we played Sabonis and Jokic back-to-back nights. Different players, but from a scheme standpoint, there's similarities between the two. And so when people talk about learning the league, you're not learning, however many players it is, 500 different individual players. You're kind of bucketing them into categories and ways of playing them. So the way we play Paul George is very similar to how we'll play somebody else. And then when we're saying, hey, when the ball comes out to man, that's not just a man scouting report. That's a scouting report of how we would guard somebody that's not an elite shooter, that's also not a main creator for the other team. And there's players that fall in that category every night. So we try to teach the categories first, and then drop the players into those categories in the scout. And then, if a guy like Leonard doesn't play, you can just take it out, and you're not changing the whole plan.